We've seen very different levels of migration there. In some of the eastern provinces, people who have migrated into the Atlantic provinces. In the north, we have a whole different set of issues that communities are facing. So what we've asked the authors to do is to talk about what those key issues are in their province over the last 5 years, and then to talk a bit about some of these responses or kind of collective action that community members or organizations have taken in response to some of these changes. So the way people have mobilized resources, they've come together to kind of affect change or build resiliency in their communities. So each chapter will outline those kind of issues, talk about some of those responses, and then also talk about what the future might look like. The State of Rural Canada report is certainly the result of a lot of hard work from a lot of different people coming together to really amplify these stories and try to pull out some lessons that we can share with different folks through this report.
Le rapport sur l'état du Canada rural est un rapport que nous publions tous les 2 ans, quelque chose que nous avons commencé en 2015. Chaque année, il a en fait pris une forme différente. Cette année, nous revenons à son format original qui était une approche régionale. Nous avons donc un chapitre pour chaque province et territoire qui couvre les questions clés du monde rural dans cette province ou territoire. Ce qui est vraiment intéressant, c'est la façon dont les différentes provinces traitent des différents problèmes. Il y a de nombreux problèmes clés dans les différentes provinces. Ici, si on regarde à l'ouest, c'est très important de parler, bien sûr, du secteur olivifère, du pétrole, du gaz, de l'évolution des économies et ce à quoi cela va ressembler. À l'est, nous avons observé des niveaux de migration très différents et certains habitants des provinces de l'est ont migré vers les provinces de l'Atlantique. Dans le nord, vous avez ensuite des communautés confrontées à une série de problèmes très différents. Nous avons donc demandé aux auteurs de parler des principaux problèmes dans leur province. Ensuite, nous leur avons demandé de parler de certaines de ces réponses ou des types d'actions collectives que les organisations de membres de la communauté ont pris en réponse à certains de ces changements. Ainsi, les gens se sont mobilisés autour des ressources pour mettre en place des changements ou renforcer la résilience dans leur communauté. Chaque chapitre présentera ce genre de questions. Nous parlerons de certaines de ces questions, puis de ce à quoi l'avenir pourrait ressembler. Le rapport du Canada rural est certainement le résultat du travail acharné d'un grand nombre de personnes différentes qui se sont réunies pour vraiment amplifier ces histoires, essayer de tirer quelques leçons à partager avec les gens dans ce rapport.
The State of Rural Canada is a report published every 2 years by the Canadian Rural Revitalization Foundation. This year, the report looks at key issues in rural communities in each province and territory. Here's Dr. Sarah Breen, one of the authors for the chapter from British Columbia.
In the past 5 years, rural British Columbia has been severely impacted by record-breaking wildfires and flooding. As I record this video, the 2021 wildfire season has seen over 1,500 fires and over 800,000 hectares burned, including the destruction of the community of Lynden. The research is clear that climate change will continue to impact and change rural BC, including those conditions that exacerbate wildfires. And the environmental, economic, and social implications of climate change for rural BC will be significant. For our local governments, community groups, as well as for us as individuals, this includes 3 key pieces. The first being education and awareness. And the second relates to planning both for adaptation to a changing environment, but also building that resilience for dealing with change, as well as taking action. Collaborative efforts are necessary to address climate change. The Crown land that surrounds our rural communities and impacts rural communities is under the management of the provincial government. So as we need changes to the management of that Crown land in order to help rural communities adapt and stay safe, that requires a collaborative effort between local governments and provincial governments. And additionally, climate change is another important arena for reconciliation with and building relationships and partnerships with First Nations and Indigenous people, which remains one of the most important and critical action items for rural BC heading forward.
L'État du Canada rural est un rapport publié tous les 2 ans par la Fondation canadienne pour la revitalisation rurale. Cette année, le rapport examine les principaux problèmes des communautés rurales dans chaque province et territoire. Ici, le Dr Sarah Breen, l'une des autrices du chapitre de la Colombie-Britannique. Durant les 5 dernières années, les zones rurales de la Colombie-Britannique ont été gravement touchées par des incendies records. Alors que j'enregistre cette vidéo, la saison 2021 des feux a vu plus de 1500 incendies et plus de 800 000 hectares brûlés, y compris la description de la communauté de Reen. La communauté et la recherche démontrent clairement les impacts sur ces zones rurales, y compris les conditions qui exacerbent les incendies. Les implications environnementales, économiques et sociales du changement climatique seront importantes. Pour nos gouvernements locaux, les groupes communautaires ainsi que les individus, cela comprend 3 éléments clés. Le premier étant l'éducation et la sensibilisation. Le second concerne la planification, à la fois pour l'adaptation à un environnement changeant, mais aussi pour le développement de cette résilience pour faire face aux changements et agir. Des efforts collaboratifs sont nécessaires pour faire face au changement climatique. Les terres de la couronne qui entourent nos communautés rurales ont un impact. Elles sont gérées par le gouvernement provincial. Donc, alors que l'on apporte des changements à la gestion de ces terres de la couronne, les communautés devront aussi s'adapter et être aidées pour la sécurité. En outre, le changement climatique est un autre domaine important de réconciliation et d'établissement de relations et de partenariats avec les Premières Nations et les peuples autochtones, ce qui demeure l'une des mesures les plus importantes et les plus critiques pour les communautés rurales de la Colombie-Britannique.
The State of Rural Canada is a report published every 2 years by the Canadian Rural Revitalization Foundation. This year, the report looks at key issues in rural communities in each province and territory. Here's Dr. Lars Holstrom, one of the authors for the Alberta chapter.
So looking at the province as a whole, when we think about rural development and the issues that are presented in terms of rural development here, they're defined by complexity, integration, and dynamism. This is a province of change, and is a province that's seen a lot of political change, policy change, and of course economic change, not just through its history, but particularly over the last 10 to 15 years. We've had 5 different premiers in just over a decade with significantly different ideas about the policy role and priority of rural communities in this province. This means that municipalities, following revisions to the Municipal Governance Act, have really struggled with coming to terms with where they fit in a province with significant economic changes and recent downturns in terms of how they respond to COVID-19 and their role within public health more broadly, where they fit in terms of economic development, business recruitment, entrepreneurialism, and service provision, and of course, where they land in terms of land use and land use planning. When we look at some of the key responses that we've seen, some of the most interesting do come from very, very innovative communities.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour, bienvenue. Welcome back. We're excited to be back for the afternoon session today. We hope you had a good lunch and a chance to relax and get excited for the great afternoon of content that we've got set up for you. I know for me, I was reflecting over lunch about the things we covered this morning and really appreciating the way that we're engaging these discussions of both the things that are happening on the ground, particularly in terms of resiliency of community groups and organizations, with some of these higher level discussions. So the public, private, and civil society sectors, policymakers, and how all of this work really fits together. And I think this is something that I really appreciate about these meetings and coming together. I was also reflecting on how cool it is that we have so many people joining us from all over Canada. So we had close to 100 people who joined us today, which is a really, really exciting. We do have close to 150 people registered. So we're expecting to see, that 150 throughout the 2 days. And that is really awesome. I was a little disappointed that I didn't get more photos shared on our Twitter stream over lunch. So I will encourage you again to go out there and snap a photo of where you're joining us from and share it with the hashtag #ShareYourRural or Mon Milieu Rural. I did see one from Kristen there who's in BC and looks like she has some fantastic, beautiful landscapes that she's surrounded by. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I look forward to seeing more of that in the afternoon or in the days to come. So to kick off our afternoon now, it's my pleasure to introduce again John Buck. John is the co-chair of the conference and the CEO and president at CEDEC. So in order to introduce our afternoon session, I will turn it over now to John. It's over to you.
Thank you, Kyle, and great job. You're doing a fantastic job as our MC. Really appreciate it. And you're so prolific. I mean, I'm following social media, and I don't know how you're speaking and typing at the same time. It's quite a talent that you have. So good stuff. And I know that you'll be able to keep our audience engaged throughout today and tomorrow. And our next guest is certainly going to help us with that, as did the folks that were here with us this morning. Just a fantastic event so far, and very excited as we continue with the remainder. To launch the afternoon, I'm really pleased to welcome Mariette Muller to the stage. Ms. Muller is President and CEO of the World Trade Center Winnipeg. She spent most of her career developing economic and trade initiatives and is the founding president and CEO of 3 economic development organizations that have been key to Manitoba's growth. Among them, the Conseil de Développement Économique des Municipalités Bilingues du Manitoba, or CEDEM as we often refer to them. Mariette has been elected as vice chair of the World Trade Centers Association Board of Directors and brings a unique trade perspective to her roles as director on the Bank of Canada Board of Directors, the Canada West Foundation Board of Directors, as well as the TV5 Canada Quebec Board. Mariette will share stories that will inspire you about the importance of collaboration and about the viability of community-led programs. On a personal note, I've known Mariette for over 20 years. We were children when we met. I've had the great pleasure and honor of working with her, often in the context of economic development for official language minority communities. Mariette is a terrific advocate for economic development and a superb ally for official language minority communities across Canada, not only in Manitoba, but really across Canada. Mariette is a leader, a role model, and an inspiration. Anyone who interacts with Mariette will appreciate why she has been named in the past one of the 10 most influential Canadian francophones by Franco Press. I could not have been happier when Mariette agreed to be part of our event today. Mariette, merci et bienvenue.
Merci beaucoup, John.
Thank you very much, John, for this kind introduction. It's always wonderful to collaborate with you. Back in the days, we had projects, we had been involved together, so it's nice to see you again. Thanks for the invitation, and thanks for having invited me in this wonderful initiative. I know it's not easy to organize meetings these days and to do everything virtually. It's another challenge on top of everything else, so congratulations to the whole team for this wonderful event. I know it's a lot of work, but it's successful, so congratulations. So I was asked to present a bit on the experience of my organization and the committees with which we worked over the years. So today, well, I'm the CEO of World Trade Center Winnipeg. So Winnipeg is in Manitoba, in the very center of Canada. And we had organized 4 forums, international forums, where we invited the entire planet to come and do business in Winnipeg. It had really been very well received. We did in collaboration with various stakeholders of the private and public sector and associations. And at some point of time, we started to be contacted to say, hey, did you think about buying a license for the World Trade Center? And we said, well, not really. Well, you work internationally, it'd be even better, it'd be easier to organize forums internationally the way you did. It'll be part of a network. And I said, okay, yeah, we thought about it, but it was a big project. So we were the National Agency for International Residents of Manitoba. Our mandate was to use bilingualism to attract investments, attract immigrants, attract trade to Manitoba. So that's really was our purpose. So to think about a license for the World Trade Center, it wasn't easy. So we worked with the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce, and together we found funding to buy a license. But before that, we had to consult the various players, make sure we had support, make sure people saw the benefits for Manitoba to be part of such a network. And it was really a wonderful path because we were able to meet the leaders and the business communities, the various organizations, the various associations, sit down with them, explain the dream, the vision, be part of this wonderful world of the World Trade Center. World Trade Center Association, its headquarters in New York. And we know we've just commemorated the famous September 11th. And that's the same group of people who started this association. But in the objective of doing trade, it was established by Guy Desoda, who had gone through the World War, and he said, no more wars. And normally when we do commercial trading with somebody, with a country, you don't want to be at war because it was peace to trade, his motto. So the World Trade Center, the idea was, well, in Canada, they already had the World Trade Center for Montreal, Toronto, Halifax, and so on. So we wanted to join ourselves with the other Canadians. It was really important for us, but we had to go get the money, to get the license and the support. And we went to get the money through the private sector. And then sponsor banks and National Bank helped us. It was a wonderful collaboration. So of course we needed the funding to supply the services and do these commercial trades. So once again, we had the support from the federal government, the provincial government, and the municipal government. So we ended up in Saint Boniface, the old city hall. That's where the offices are. So a nice collaboration for the three levels of government and from the private sector also. And this led to the fact that we were now part of this wonderful network. And believe me, it was so worthwhile. Over 300 World Trade Centers around the world. So as soon as we have a business person who's interested in a market or other, we check first of all whether we have, a World Trade Center that's there. And of course, we work with the federal government, who has embassies throughout the world. So it's a wonderful collaboration once again when we help an entrepreneur to work with the federal government and with our brothers and sisters in the other World Trade Centers. So just to give you a small idea of who we are completely bilingual at World Trade Center. So the working language is French because we really had established this whole international forum. And it was something we were proud of, something that, we are bilingual and we work in French. So by buying the license, we maintain the French fact and the bilingual fact, because when you go throughout the world, we speak both official languages of the country, and this removes linguistic barriers when we work with countries where French is important. And frankly, I'm always impressed that French is spoken throughout the world. Often people want to learn French because it's a prestigious and a rich language. And it's certainly a language which is spoken in many countries throughout the world. So it's something of which I'm very proud of as a Canadian. This is part of our values. So today I wanted to talk about a bit about the World Trade Center, but especially I want to talk about my experience of what I've seen, the successes of various projects. So I'll tell you an anecdote. We were in 1966. Yes, I was young, really, really young in those days. No. But I was there and I saw my father get involved in a big project. So 1966, it was 100-year anniversary of the province of Manitoba. And there were all kinds of activities that were being organized, obviously, in Winnipeg and Brandon and the Anglophone villages around. But there wasn't much going on in the Francophone villages to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of our province. And Daddy, who was an entrepreneur, and with the Chamber of Commerce in Saint-Pierre-Joli, a small village of 800 people, they decided that they were going to do something special for this 100th anniversary of the province. And he knew that the Queen of England was coming to Manitoba. Yes, the same. Elizabeth II. Yep, she's still there. She was coming here with her husband, Prince Philip, and their son, and they were coming to Manitoba to commemorate the 100 years. And the Queen, she was going to do a few stops in the Anglophone villages. And Dad and his friends said, why wouldn't she come to Saint-Pierre-Joli? Why would she come to talk and do her speech? The Queen of England. in French at Saint-Pierre-Joli in Manitoba. And they did it. You can see the picture. That's my little daddy with one of the elected officials. And the other picture that you can see, it's Prince Philip, who's there here in our little village. So the Queen is there. And she's receiving flowers. It's young Mona Bruno, Mona Falis, who became, well, eventually the mayor of the village of Saint-Pierre. It's just a small side anecdote, but she had won the contest to present the flowers to the Queen. Imagine. I wanted to be winner, but unfortunately it wasn't me. But anyway, it was really a wonderful contest. It was great. The whole school was involved. It was prestigious to be able to give flowers to the Queen. So then organizing a visit of the Queen, the whole village decided that they would profit of this village to organize something new. And the village of Saint-Pierre, around there's a lot of Anglophone villages who are very close. And we were a bit kind of like, the frogs. That's what they call us, the frogs. And people in Saint-Pierre said, oh, we'll use this. They call us frogs already. Why don't we have a contest to have frog jumping contest? We would invite politicians, business people, the whole village to each have a frog. You can see here in the pail, a frog, choose a frog, and they had 3 jumps. And the ones who jumped the farthest would win. So they call this the Frog Follies. You can see on the picture, welcome to Saint-Pierre-Joli, Frog Follies. So they sponsored, and it's 50 years now for this feast. It's just been the 50th year for this. And you can see the death of Prince Philip, the month of April, the husband of the Queen in a Toronto Star, as you can see. This was the famous visit in Saint-Pierre-Joli in 1970. But it really took a whole village to make sure that the Queen would come and make a speech in French, but also to organize the first Frog Follies, commemorating our history, our ancestors, our Francophone heritage, and to have fun and to gather people. And it became a tourist attraction that was really impressive. Everybody knows Saint-Pierre-Joli today for the Frog Follies because people gathered together. We went to get the mayor of the village on those days. We got the sponsor, the business people, the Manitoba government also helped financially, the municipality that got involved. So it was really a collaboration that was so impressive. And I was a little girl. I saw all of this. And there was a big parade, obviously, through the village, and people were all dressed up. It was really something fantastic. And it was big. There were people, the Queen of England was there. There were people all over the place. And then the Frog Follies Festival kind of brought everything together. The Queen left, but the festival remained behind. And today, 50 years later, it's still there. But you really need private, public collaboration, focus. It was to even use what we had that was different in Saint-Pierre-Joli, which was our Francophone history, to say, hey, we're proud of this. We're proud of what we can offer to the population, everybody, Francophones, Anglophones, Ukrainian, whatever, everybody around Saint-Pierre, everybody leveraged this. And this had economic spin-offs that were important. It was obvious. And me, as a small girl, I saw this, and it was really striking for me. And I heard things, some said this, some said that, but people gathered, and for me, it was really impressive. I was very young, and maybe I didn't see everything, all the things that were going on in the background, but what I remember of this is it was far more the fact that we managed by using what we had. And this makes me think another project, but this is a lot later. So maybe you've heard the CEDEM. The CEDEM is the corporation, it's the CDEC of Manitoba. the group that deals with economic development for Francophones in Manitoba. So in 96, I was the first GM of the CDEMs. That's how I got to know John and all the others in the network. So I've been there for a long time, but in those days, it was new. It was completely new to give ourselves an economic motor to take care of the bilingual municipalities to make sure that they had an economic strength, that they had the potential to attract investment, tourism in their communities and so on. But there was a small decline that was going on and we could see people leaving and it wasn't easy. So we worked each one of the municipalities for a project, what we called the Project Vision. The Project Vision was really to sit down with the community and to do the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and to identify which project would make sense in this location, geographically, demographically, culturally, for what is there naturally. And one of the villages where I was really struck by this personally is Saint Laurent, the village of Saint Laurent. And Saint Laurent, it's a Métis village. So it's really, that's where you have the highest concentration of Francophone Métis in Manitoba. And this village has had its ups and downs, but they decided at some point of time through this whole process and through the fact that they could see the potential to use their heritage as Métis and to do something with this. So they started a festival, and it's called Festival Manitogo. It attracted all kinds of attention, but once again, the municipal had to get involved, the business people had to get involved, they had to get grants from the province of Manitoba. It was really a great success, this festival, which continues to exist, but it also led to something else. And me, what I saw really was almost kind of visible. Well, it wasn't visible actually, but what I felt that it was this pride of all these people, the pride of the Métis. Hey, we have something different. We have something special. We have a life's history. We have ways of doing things and tradition that we want to share. And this led to the point where today in Washington, D.C., at the Smithsonian Institution, there's a wing of the building for the Métis community from Saint Laurent in Manitoba. And that's where it is. It was an element of pride. I'll always remember the CDEM. It was really a way, a true way to come and contribute to the prosperity of a community. And it comes back to the partnership between public, private, also consulting people and engaging the stakeholders, involving everybody. People want to be part of something. So it was quite a process. And this we did in other communities bet on, for example, the agricultural elements, or for example, there was also industrial park in Saint Agathe, which had been anticipated. There was a new golf course at La Bretille-Saint-Léon. It was the wind farm. There's a lot of wind, a lot of space. So people said, hey, it's a good way of being different, getting involved in a green economy and attracting people. So there were projects like that were set up, and each one of them, it was the same common thread: vision, the focus on our project, gather people together, invite people to give their opinion without losing their focus. It's easy and people raise their hands and say, oh, we could do this, we could do that. No. There are many things that can lead you away from your focus, but you have to stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish. And of course, to communicate with people and say what we want, what's the vision, where we headed. And when people see that somebody has a vision, it's easier to follow that than if people are all scattered all over the place and it's negative or something like that. So through my years at the CDEM, I was there a long time, 11 years, and I always have seen the same type of key success factors, where it's in Saint Boniface, the Winnipeg neighborhood in Winnipeg, or in the bilingual rural communities. It was always striking for me to see up to what point people can take control of themselves, become empowered, and move forward. So today at the World Trade Center, it's different because I work with all of Manitoba, all of the sectors, all of the businesses at various levels who are willing to go internationally, but some just want to expand in the province, or they want to have trade throughout Canada. So it's the role we play. And I can see up to what point it's roughly the same thing. You know, people want to work together and we find partners. That's when we succeed. So we work with a lot of partners. It could be associations of, it could be, the various industries with which we work. It's this collaboration which guarantees success of our project. So I wanted to share these small stories, knowing that somewhere there are many people who are looking to make a difference in this world. So I want to thank you all for your attention today. And I want to thank you for having invited me. And I wish to you all the people who are participating in this forum, to learn and to pick up tools. I wish you all great successes in the projects that you will have. And if you have any questions, well, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So thanks once again.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Muller.
Thank you very much, Ms. Muller. This made me think. During my bachelor's degree, I followed a course from sociology of Francophone communities outside Quebec, and listening to you really, it's like a full circle for me. So thank you. We have now time for questions. I'd invite the people to put their questions in the chat.
Feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and I will moderate this session here. You can put them in French or English, en français ou en anglais, and we'll continue the conversation here. So, pour commencer, qu'est-ce qui rend les programmes
to begin? Why is it important? What's viable for these programs, and why is it important? What makes the programs viable for the provinces and the federal? Well, first of all, I've often seen programs that were put forth without consultation beforehand. I think the key to have a successful program is to consult before. Sometimes there's good intentions behind these programs, but if you have not consulted the population, if you're not informed on what the needs are, sometimes it doesn't work. The first thing for a program is to really make sure that they will be rooted in the needs of the population that you're trying to help. I've often said this, and I figured, it's true, that's a good intention, but maybe it won't be successful because we kind of missed the boat because we didn't begin with consultations. Thank you. Now, concerning trade in Manitoba, what are some of the critical factors to take into consideration during the establishment of fruitful long-term collaborations? Well, in Manitoba, we're a small province, so people know each other quite well. Nevertheless, we're very diverse as an economy. So yes, we often talk about agriculture as being a very strong element in our economy, yes, but agriculture is kind of the foundation. But when you talk about agriculture, you also talk about food security, packaging, logistics. How do you get the product to the market? So the people who come to Manitoba, who want to do business with Manitoba, we have to be very aware that it's not just agriculture as we know it, but it's the whole, it's much more vast than what's growing in the land. So for example, at some point of time, the aerospace sector, which is quite strong here, well, there was a corporation that is based on the fact of they do processing of flax to use it in agricultural machines. So there are agricultural machines that use composites that come from the flax that come from, they are grown here. So there's so many elements. Sometimes people think that, we just produce flax, but flax was processed and it to be used in aerospace composite materials, in cars and all kinds of places like that. So it's important to understand that we have a very diversified economy like Manitoba. We have environmental industries, we have aerospace, we have agriculture, we have proteins, which are more and more important. Proteins like not just an animal, but also plant protein. A vegan food stuff. So this is becoming an important trend. And there's also the whole manufacturing sector. So often agricultural and manufacturing collaborate. So these are all the elements which I think that people should obtain more information about. Who are the players? We have associations who represent the various industries. So I would propose that if people are interested, to get information on which industry or which association of industries exists, and the Chamber of Commerce and their CIDEM, there's World Trade Center. So there are many resources who exist, who can help. There's the Rural Economic Development of Manitoba, who's just been established and is very strong. It's in branded, and it's really to try to help the rural economy. But it's not just for agriculture. There's a lot of manufacturing in the rural in Manitoba. So I would propose that people would inform themselves, because we're there to help, and we're there to open doors and to make connections.
So we do have some questions coming in now, but maybe as a bit of a follow-up, how do you maybe foresee these processes of, collaboration changing in the future, moving forward? So we've got lots of forces and things that are changing the way these things play out. So how might you, foresee, if you had a crystal ball, how might you foresee these things changing in, 10 years? Totally speculative.
So just so you know, at the World Trade Center, we organized a cluster study to look at where is Manitoba competitive globally. Okay, so we know that agriculture is huge, and I spoke about aerospace, but we also know that everything is around the supply chain, right? So the collaborations will be around knowledge and understanding of the supply chain and who's in the chain, and why we need the other elements in the collaboration, because we're not going to go very far. And we've heard all this through COVID about how supply chains are affected. And I think the level of collaboration will probably be a little bit more concentrated locally. There's probably going to be efforts to ensure more local collaboration, to be able to be strong enough to go trade internationally. I know I'm with the World Trade Center, but I really see Canada as being able to be more competitive globally if we get innovation around the table, and if we collaborate locally to give ourselves the strengths to be able to compete internationally. My crystal ball.
Thank you. Very interesting as well, because we've seen this week, some of the major kind of international things that happen that maybe we don't think of having clear implications for rural places, but clearly they do in these different ways. So
absolutely.
Merci beaucoup. Our next question is, can you tell us a bit more about the Vision Project?
Oui, le projet des visions, très. What happened there, the difference between this project and many I had seen before is we were able to get the funding. Okay, so first of all, it's important. If you're going to do it, and you got to do it well, you got to go all the way. And we're very lucky that WD, that Western Economic Diversification, helped us up in that sense. So first, we were sitting with the different economic development agencies locally, the ones that were in our. So at the time, there was, I think, 12 bilingual municipalities. So I'm talking when I was there. And so we would sit down with the agency, the municipal government, and we organized this sort of little town hall where we sat down with, and we really forced the community leaders to take a look at what was their strengths and what was the opportunities, and really on that. Once they determined which project they thought would really make a difference economically, because it's all about the economy, what projects would make a difference economically in their village or in their municipality, we would then bring in an architect. This architect was able to put a vision, a real vision, a drawing, so that people could get excited about that. And the role that we played, we'd help the community with, briefing notes for whoever ministers they had to present in front of, to clarify, to bring their focus a little bit more clear, to get the architect to show them what they could look like. And the fact that we had these architectural drawings, in my opinion, made the whole difference, because people were able to see. Quand on peut voir notre projet, puis c'est visuel, puis c'est dessiné.
When you can see the project, when it's visualized, people get in. That's really a power. What are we talking about? Donc, so
to get buy-in from the different groups, when you can see it, then you can get behind it. And to me, that was the real trick. And so, but we were only allowing one per municipality to begin with, to give a chance to everybody. But some municipalities were just like go-getters, and they were like, well, we've got this one, and we got this one, we got this one. We said, okay, we'll start with the first one. So we kind of forced them to, okay, which one is your first one? So that we could concentrate, focus, make sure that we can bring that one to the next level. And there's some municipalities that benefited from having more than one project, because they were go-getters and they really felt as if they had something more to offer, and we were there to help. And it was a lot of the kind of the administrative writing, architectural help that we were providing. The rest, the communities did it brilliantly. And that's why there was so many successes. It was fun to see it grow.
That's very interesting, and it speaks to some of the discussions we had this morning about capacity building and learning from these experiences of change.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Our next question that's come through, at the World Trade Center, how do you pursue new partnerships or collaborations?
Well, I think we pursue it the same way that we pursue it at a local level. Except in this case, the World Trade Center Winnipeg belongs to a network of over 300 World Trade Centers around the world. The challenge that we're facing, and we've just, you mentioned it, Kyle, about some of the stuff that's going on internationally. It's the different kind of approaches, what a country will see as legit, another will see as not okay, the way we conduct business. So it's really to find, so around the table of the World Trade Centers, it's really to find les atomes crochus. What do we have in common to start with? Because you can imagine Winnipeg, we're not top of the mind of people. When they think Canada, c'est Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. Winnipeg, no. And although our name is World Trade Center Winnipeg, we work with all of Manitoba. I'm from the rural community, and our strength in our economy is really a lot from the rural. So for us, it's just our name, but because all the World Trade Centers around the world are named by their city. But we're not top of the mind. But the reason we become top of the mind, Kyle, is because we are proactively seeking similarities between other World Trade Centers. What kind of economy do they have that could resemble ours? What is when we have a business partner here or a client that's looking for a certain market, how do we make that connection? And then it's maybe we get connected with the World Trade Center locally over there, but the key is also to try and find who else there can we connect with. So it's the same way that you develop any partnership is win-win, right? You have to try and identify what's in it for that other person, what's in it for that other potential partner. Another type of partner that we develop here locally is with sponsors. So again, the key to sponsors is for them to really see that you're a good investment. The return on value, not just the return on investment, the return on value that you're bringing to your sponsor is always what the first thing you should think about, even before even identifying them. It's almost like, why would they be interested in being part of this with us? Well, there's either it's our connections with the community, whether it's our connection with our clients, whether it's our connection nationally or internationally, but they have to see something and they have to see value. And that's always the key, in my opinion, for different partnerships.
Right. So important thinking about that exchange, right? What does the partnership really mean? How is it mutually beneficial?
Exactly.
Awesome. Continuing with our questions, they're flying in now. So this is great. This one, maybe zooming out a little bit, thinking about recovery and these changes that we have experienced. How should Canadians or Manitobans work differently when thinking about these collaborations and try to establish some kind of vision or common purpose? So what is the way forward there?
Well, I think we're talking a lot about ESG, inclusivity, diversity, and I think we're on the right track. I think that's what's going to make us recover more quickly, is to seek out everybody's kind of strengths. And we have it like, we're so lucky in Manitoba because we're very diverse as far as our ethnic backgrounds. So we have a strong bilingual community, as you know from now. But we also have a very strong Indigenous community. We also have very, very, very multicultural communities that have. I think we've always given them a lot of light. Like, we've been promoting it. We've been celebrating the diversity that we have. So, and I think if we continue on that with the ESG, like the environmental social governance, in our heads all the time, as far as how we should conduct ourselves and where we should put our priorities. So I think that is how Canadians, in my opinion, will come out. The other one is innovate, 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 innovate. Like, we have to help companies get onto, whether it's AI, whether it's the new way of like doing business. I think that the programs that should come out should really help companies to be more competitive. And competitive is usually related to innovation and making it easy for them to have access to that, or to do the turn. For example, we had a whole bunch of webinars that we gave starting in March or February this year. It was all on e-commerce, and it was really geared towards small businesses. So we're talking local businesses that did not have an e-commerce strategy. They were not able to sell online. So at the end of the webinars, it was 4 days, like over 4 weeks, they had a functioning e-commerce store. So they knew how to deliver their stuff. They knew how to promote it. They knew how to return, how to get paid, and make it a good consumer experience for those. So trying to make it as easy, as smoothly as possible for the consumer at the other end. And I think those are the kinds of tools that really help. But sometimes we got to invest a little bit more in those tools for a while to give them a chance to succeed.
Awesome. And again, I'm just seeing so many parallels to our conversations this morning, right? We had those talks about farmers markets going online. Yeah. I know in the report we talked about community futures organizations that did a lot of kind of support of getting people online and moving things digital. So so many synergies here. This is wonderful. Next question. So today, or over these 2 days, we're going to be talking about the private, public, and civil society sectors. So wondering if you see any of those sectors underrepresented, or maybe ways that we might think about investing or bringing in sectors that aren't as represented in these collaborations.
Well, for us, we have a lot of support with the Canadian government, the Manitoba government, provincial government, on different ways. And I think it's really key that the municipal governments are also as active. They might not have as much of a financial support, like they might not have as much of this financial muscle that the other levels of governments do have, but even more important for the federal government to see the role of municipal governments. I think sometimes they're forgotten in kind of the tax rebates or whatever that could be offered to give that strength locally. Because if you're strong locally, you'll be stronger provincially, and you'll definitely be stronger nationally and internationally. So I think those are the kinds of aspect that I would want to see even more, is giving more power or more importance to the municipal level, the local level.
Right. And so one thing we've talked a lot about as well is capacity at the local level, right? And the capacity that organizations or municipalities have at the local level. So I'm wondering if you could reflect on maybe where some of our capacity building efforts might be directed. What are the key things or tools that you think people at the municipal level could benefit from in order to engage in some of these collaborations?
Well, I think sometimes what we need, Kyle, is organizations that have the tools to, a little bit when I spoke about the vision, we were able to write briefing notes. That was in our wheelhouse. We were able to do communications, marketing, help with those kinds of tools. And I think if you empower local organizations, whether it's CFDCs or other economic development agencies, to really have the capacity to provide these services, to do even knowledge transfer of knowledge and transfert de connaissances from what they can do to, let's say, the even more local organization. There are a lot of tools out there, and there's a lot of people who have them, but sometimes we don't bring it all together. And I think that would be the key. Capacity building is huge. I mean, that's because that's for the long run. You know, it's not a short-term thing. It's a short term that gives a long-term impact. So when we talk about that, but what does it mean exactly? I think it's to take it seriously to begin with, and decide that we're going to focus that, because we know that those have long-term effects that are positive on the community. So that would be my little humble opinion.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we are getting close to our time, but I will invite people, if you do have some questions, we have a few more minutes left. So please put them in the chat. Vous pouvez mettre vos questions dans le chat. Nous avons...
You can write your questions in the chat box. We have about 8 minutes left before we break.
Here. Your Pan-Canadian insights have been very useful and transportable in a lot of ways across many different communities. So I'm wondering if you can explain a little bit about how we can learn across communities like that. How can we share that stuff, or where do people go to look for some of these examples?
Well, I think you've got a lot of knowledge right within these organizations here that are putting this forum on. First of all, we start there. These organizations here have been collaborating, have been looking at what's going on locally. I would certainly say that what I find in my little world of world trade, it's almost easier for somebody to trade with the United States than sometimes within our own country. There's a lot of trade barriers between our provinces. C'est ridicule. It shouldn't be there. There's so many, whether we're talking transportation, whether we're talking food, whether we're talking labeling, there's all kinds of challenges within Canada. So I think the organizations that are doing economic development, if they can identify what are those barriers, I think we can start trading amongst Canada. And when we trade, we learn from each other. So I think the organizations that exist can already play a huge role there, and then connect with the local organizations, and then also see if there is some revendication towards those trade barriers that exist that are not allowing Canadians to trade amongst each other or to get clients in another province as easily as they should. It shouldn't be easier to trade with the United States than within our own country.
Certainly. Well, it looks like that's all the questions that have come in. So with that, I just want to say a huge thank you. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. This has been an awesome session, and I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say that we've learned something from your talk. So thank you so much. And I will now just direct everyone to our next session, where we'll be headed next. So next up, we have the breakout sessions that will be happening. Just a reminder, these breakout sessions have been online and they have been available to you for some time now. So be sure that you've reviewed them, you've formulated your questions, and you're bringing those questions and discussion points to the breakout rooms. You will be able to access the breakout rooms with the tool called Breakout Rooms, and then you'll be able to jump into those different rooms and discuss with those different discussants in those different rooms. So that session will go until about 3 o'clock. So I will ask that you come back here and you meet us back here at 3 o'clock for I'm going to take that back. 3 o'clock, we're going to roll right into the panels. So we're not going to come back here. So you will get a prompt from the system that will tell you kind of where to go next. We just ask that everyone follow those different instructions as we get them. Don't hang around in the rooms too long, because we want to give all of the different discussants and panelists some some time to speak and give them their airtime. So remember, at any point, you can always use the question mark in the bottom right-hand corner to get some tech assistance. And in general, you can always use go back to the lobby or the retour au lobby to get back to the conference platform and direct yourself from there. So with that, I'll invite you to take a few minutes and join us in the breakout rooms. We look forward to some more great discussion. And once again, merci beaucoup, Madame Muller. It was a pleasure having you here today.
Merci à vous. Bon succès.